what I wanted to talk to you about today because it friggin' fascinated me so hardcore. Is that India has 1.3 billion people and China has 1.4 billion people.
Wow. Yeah.
And China is a bit bigger than India as a continent, but it has an extra, chunk of people as well. So
100 million. Yeah.
I went to India and we traveled far, man. We went as far as we could go, like all over the place in India. And then we went to China and did the same sort of, or as far as we could go, all rural areas, same sort of energetic. When we were in India, every single second of the day and night, I knew that I was with 1.3 billion people. Like I knew, I could hear it. It never was silent. Everywhere you went, there was people. It was just so friggin' busy. No matter where you were, it was full of people. Like you were always pushing your way through the crowds. And the old Delhi markets, places like this, it's suffocating with people,
Yeah.
intimidating amounts of people. China, everywhere we went, every place we went, including the cities we ended up going through, there's no people. There's no fucking people. China is empty. Holy
Wow.
shit. You better put this at the beginning of the podcast. It can be the loop into the show. China is empty. Good morning, Tartaria, Australia. Autodidactic. We're back in the house, man, or back in the country, I should say. Hey, buddy.
Hey, hey, yeah, man. We made it. We
We made
traveled.
it.
We came back alive.
I'm just maybe I shouldn't be rude and just take those off since no one's seen my face for 2 months.
Yeah.
Whew.
2 months
It's a bit
traveling.
harsh though. I can't do it.
Too
I've got to
hard.
I've got to build my way into that. I kind of fucked them by sitting on in a taxi. All right. So, oh my God, we have been friggin' everywhere, man. Like all over the place. Actually, Cambell and I haven't caught up for like 2 months now. The last time we spoke was that little podcast that we did on the very second dad arrived in India. So I
Yeah.
actually have no idea what autodidactic's been up to, what he's been
Yeah.
doing, who he's been hanging with. He's got no idea what I've been doing. And we thought, fuck it, instead of catching up like now, we just do it live.
Let's do it live. Yeah. We haven't spoken yet. I'm still in Perth. So
I'm
so we're
hot.
still not in the same place. How hot is it there? It's 39 here today.
Yeah, it's humid. It's feeling humid. It's not so hot. It's humid, but it's clouds in the sky, which is amazing. I didn't come back to
Oh,
drought and
wow.
bushfires, which the whole community were like, hello, our really good friends down the road almost lost their house.
Yep. Yep. There were fires while we were away, but I got back, I think, the day after the rains, or a couple of days, and it was all greened up, and
Yep.
3 days, and then took off. So,
Yep.
yeah, man, it's been like 2 months. So,
Oh, no, I've
solid.
got to, let's just start with you.
Start
I
with
want to
me.
know, you
Right.
just fucking went and hung out with all the old gurus in America. What's been,
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah,
how
it
was
was
it?
awesome.
Get us the inside goss, Campbell. What's the
It
deal? What's the
was, it
story?
was really cool. Um, Unorganized, but everything worked out perfectly. Met heaps of really cool people. Met
Yeah.
Jason, Martin, a few other creators, did some shows, traveled through 14 states in 28 days. It was great. America's awesome. Um,
I love America. I could
America,
easily live in America.
me too. Like it's
Yeah.
the main thing I noticed, pretty quickly is how much of a nanny state Australia is, man. Like
Yeah, we've
I'm like
fucked
in
up.
America, they're like they don't have random police stops.
Yeah.
Like they don't like randomly stop people and check their licenses or their, breath test or any of this stuff. And I was freaking out because every time I saw the police pulling someone over, I'm like, oh, what happened there? And every time the person said, oh, they're probably just helping them out. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You
Yep.
police help people here? What's
Yep.
going
Yep.
on? Our police are they're just hunters, man. They're just hunting down dollars in
Wasn't
Australia.
it wasn't it fascinating individually how I mean, I'm assuming you had many moments is how like traveling really allows you to see what programming you've been subjected to. Like that was a level of programming, like with you and the
Yeah, for
police.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
we think we're pretty free here, and when you start seeing, all this stuff, and obviously you can buy beer at a service station, right? That's treating you like an adult. I mean, it's so it's just bigger, but that's why I think there's so much opportunity. We always hear this about America is because they pretty much let you do what you want as long as you're not out there, depending on the state you're in. As long as you're not hurting others or being an
Yeah.
idiot, they
Yeah.
kind of let you do your thing, right?
Yeah.
In California, they let you do anything. Like they'll sell you mushrooms and dope everywhere, and it's all legal. It's crazy.
How, I mean, come on, let's admit it. How civilized and awesome are the shops you can buy weed at? Like,
Shops.
oh my God.
It's
It's so
exactly right.
civilized.
In Australia, it's like you want some, and you don't get a choice. It's not like, oh, would you like indica or sativa? It's like, this is what I've got, and that's it. That's your choice. In America, it's like literally, it's like getting a prescription. You walk in and they're like, what do you want? What do
Yeah.
you
What
want
do
to
you need?
feel? What's
Yeah.
your ailment? And they
Yeah.
just give you the yeah. So it's
I
very
know.
civilized. Yes.
The first time I went into one of those supermarkets was, oh, not even supermarket, it's a shop. It was probably like in 2019. And man, I was just like, wow, this is a whole other realm of reality. Like you go in and you can choose, like it's all there. You can just like very leisurely and very calmly just ponder along and check it all out, decide what you feel like. Like it's so good on that level,
Yeah.
really cool.
You can drive around with it in your car and not have to worry about getting busted
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
a random stop by someone trying to steal money
Yeah.
off you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. I was only in the southern states, but cars,
Yeah.
land, most things for
Yeah.
shopping, food's kind of comparable, but most things are cheaper.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. Like Australia, like I had a look when I was in casino, and like for a casino house, and casino is like a 5,000 person town out in the half desert, like 350 grand in a casino. In Texas, you could buy a two-story almost mansion for that on a massive block of land.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
absolutely crazy, like the difference. So
And I reiterate that from my travels too. Like the cost of living here in Australia is friggin' insane. Like when you actually get out of this country and realize the difference in the economy on that level, it's just like you feel foolish for living here.
yeah,
I have come home feeling like we're fools, man.
yeah, man, we're so taxed as well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're so taxed. We have it all, man. We've got income tax, all the sales tax, and the GST is sales tax on top of sales tax.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just so, yeah, I agree. That definitely hit me, man. I'm like, holy shit, I'm from this country and they're treating me like a little child and just robbing me blind.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. We'll get back onto that subject as I cross-examine it with my experiences. So, but
Yeah,
I want to know, like, tell us how was Martin? How was Jason? Like, how
yeah,
was
man.
hanging out with them in real life? The difference between doing it on a podcast and actually connecting physically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're pretty much just like they are when we talk to them. We stayed in a house in San Diego, about 10 of us.
Yep.
And that was really cool. It was just, got along with everyone perfectly. There was no problems. Good vibes. I spent 4 days in a van with Martin traveling. Imagine what that was like. Yes, he liked the marijuana shops too. Um,
Yeah.
and Jason was really cool. I'm glad I met him. He was, again, just kind of what he puts himself out as. He was really, really generous, put me up, paid for all my stuff. Always sort of looking at, he's a bit like a, Papa Bear type, likes to look after everyone and make sure everything's
Yeah.
good. But I met his dad. I had a big conversation with his dad. who basically reiterated all the stuff that Jason said. So as far as all that kind of, speculation on that, yeah, man, as far as I'm concerned, it's all legit and the real deal. So
Excellent.
could have met him. Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. Well, I was very jealous. I was very jealous that you got to hang out and talk great conversations for all that time. Like, fantastic. I mean, like, honestly, I'm really craving that physical like contact with
Well,
people now. It's just like having been bombarded with the stimulation of traveling, like, this Zoom reality we're all living in. It's, there's
exactly right.
a
And
real loss.
the other thing about America is there's so many people, right?
Yeah.
Like in Texas, they got 80 million people, like two and a half times all of Australia just in Texas.
And can you tell, like when you're walking around, can you tell?
I didn't really go into any of the big cities, but just, like driving around and driving through the country and just, being in suburbs and that, not at all. It's not overpopulated at all.
Yeah.
Like we drove 4 days through like Arizona and that's almost like driving through Australia. Like it's like semi-desert and there's no one there.
Yeah.
So no, it's definitely not overpopulated. But what's good is like for live shows, because we do have the problem in Australia with the distance. So if we want to do like two shows, it's a big travel. In America, things are close, man. You could do like 5 shows in a couple of weeks without a problem. So, maybe we'll go and do a tour at some point.
Yeah, well, I absolutely love America. All my interactions with America have been amazing. The people, the places, the whole culture. They are
Yeah.
definitely on my radar as some of my favorite people. I really love Americans. I've got a
I shot
thing.
a gun. I shot a gun.
How was that? I've shot a gun once in my whole life, and it was so dramatic, as in it was so loud and like it's the kickback was so strong that I was like, there, yeah, whoa. I could feel the death in that power of that weapon. Hey.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. No, we just had a shooting range and I shot like a 9mm and a .22, just handguns. Yeah, it was good experience. But yeah, they're loud with a bit of a kick. But I mean, that's the other thing, right? In America, everyone's half the people just packing, right? They got guns in their cars and that. But we know, right? All these, mass unlivings that happen by guns. It's not normal people, is it? It's all these setups and stuff. So it's not like people say, well, they've got all these guns, so they're all crazy. It's not that at all.
No.
Um, they just don't want to take no shit, man. So yeah, no, America was great. All the people were awesome. Um, the food you've got to, I think I put on about 5 kilos. So you
Uh,
definitely got to
don't
hunt
even
out the
talk to
proper
me
food.
about it. Don't even talk to me about it.
My diet just went out the window,
Yeah,
man.
I know, same. Oh, it was the food probably was the hardest part of my journeying because India, it has like a massive, like it's just so spicy. Everything is so hot and spicy, and if you're not into hot spicy food, unfortunately, thanks to my English parents, that was never going to mature well in me from the start.
Yeah,
And then of course they very, very, very minimal meat, and then China. Well, that's just a whole other realm of food
yeah.
stories. I tell you, that's just a whole other culture. But yeah, no, the food for me was quite a shocking event. We went from this cleanest carnivore diet, you and I, to for me, the first like 3.5 weeks ended up being primarily rice and like naan breads. And then there's quite a lot of like fried foods that have like semi-spicy inside. So I mean, I just basically lived off carbs.
Yeah,
And like that was a very big shock to my system.
his system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same. My system got a bit shocked because well, I mean we were totally off carbs pretty much, and just the carb intake, your guts are like, hang on, like you eat, and then like half an hour after, you're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
what have I done?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no, I definitely, lots of meat in America, so I didn't have that issue. But yeah, everything's fried. I had deep fried cheese.
Yeah,
It,
man.
it's literally that's like a dish,
Yeah.
like deep fried cheese.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Where have you been living, Campbell, man? Come on. Yeah. Well,
Right, yeah.
so like so for you on your trip, what have you taken out of it that's just lingering on around your mind right now? What are the raw details that have just sort of stayed with you? You've been back for how long
Um,
now? Like 3 weeks, but you're in Perth.
2 weeks or something, yeah, but I'm in Perth, yeah. Same thing. It's just a big wide world, right? There's so much out there. And I
Yeah.
did 4 weeks and it was just like it's not even enough to do one state, really. Like there's just so much and it's all opportunity, right? Like, we've sort of, you tend to sit in your environment and not really go out and think that that's how
Yeah.
it is. And, we're all supposed to be so awake and all this stuff, but we still sit around, not really experiencing the world, don't we, in the
Yeah.
system,
We do.
because we have to, or we think we have to, or we think there's too many restrictions, or there's not enough money, or whatever. But, you know, you can just do it. I think it's just a decision. And, if you get out there and you don't need lots of money or lots of anything, really. Um, just get out on a wing and a prayer and go for it. So, I mean, yeah, I just want to travel a lot more now.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, Europe next year. But yeah, I'd like to go back to America, do some more shows and stuff. And yeah, man, I'm into traveling.
Yeah, it's definitely stimulation. So I was in India for 3.5 weeks and then China. So two very contrasting cultures.
Yeah.
And I love this way of traveling. I love going from one extreme to the other. It's such a full embodied experience, just when you start to settle into the vibe of one, you sort of like catapulted into the vibe of another, and they're so different. They're so different. I fucking love India. I would move to India in a second. I love that country. It was just extraordinary. Um, if you've never been to India, I highly recommend. It's on everyone's bucket list. Like literally, you could take years to see that culture in that country. But some of the I mean, everywhere we went was just gold. It was just like everything about it was in every way a 10 out of 10, and I just clicked straight into the chaos. It was just my perfect sort of vibe. It's utter chaos, as everyone knows, the famous traffic. But like on the very first leaving at Delhi, the airport, to get to our hotel, we literally, the very first thing we did was drive in to the oncoming highway in the opposite direction traffic. Like the very first event was just straight in there, trucks coming at you, fucking excellent. So like that side of things I slipped into, and the utter freedom. It's just like utter freedom in all directions. And like that just stayed with me for the whole trip. Of course, and then we get to China, which is a contrast. But yeah, India on that level, amazing. And I saw my programming, like especially around smoking. Like smoking in India happens everywhere. Like there is nowhere that's off bounds. You can smoke everywhere. And actually, it's really weird when you are a Westerner and you go to move yourself outside, or you ask for ashtrays, or you obviously avoid like basically 90% of places where you wouldn't normally, like
Mm.
elevators, trains,
Fighters.
overnight stuff, taxis, restaurants. I mean, there's just nothing out of bounds. And that's, to me, was crazy. Like I really had to click into, and I had to really try hard to click into gear on that one. But it's
Mm.
friggin' amazing, just the freedom in it and the acceptance. The culture is so accepting of basically everything. Like you can't, like it's just, and they
Mm.
just adore Westerners. Like they have a
Yeah.
real like adoration and love there. They really, put you on a bit of a pedestal, which, like it's just how the culture's unfolded. But everyone was so friendly, and there's not one person you'd pass who wouldn't smile at you. Actually, it was mainly the other Western tourists that you'd pass that wouldn't smile at
Yeah,
you.
that was
Ironically, like they were just like, "Hey, not seeing you. I'm on my own experience here. You don't exist." But the Indian people are just beautiful, like, and so rich and so intelligent, because all around them they've just got 14,000 religions, gods, festivals, spiritual festivals, traditions, rituals, sacred things, sacred actions, huge family structures. Like it is so integrated that their minds by default, even like with no education, are just wiring and firing at a very high dynamic. Like the input is a lot going into them, or they're super stimulated all the time. And because of that, their depth of thought is super intelligent. It's super, super intelligent. And like everywhere you go, it's just extraordinary. You know, like every
Yeah.
turn there's, and the whole it's so fascinating from a Tartarian perspective. Because obviously, like this whole time, I'm just like, I'm overlaying like everything we've ever talked about with like seeing it in different cultures. India was a bit of a head trip, you know, because like the whole thing is basically Tartaria, but it's like you're living on the ruins of it. Like, you know, here in the West, like the elements of Tartaria that we can see are basically cleared up and cleaned up and part of like the rich now beautiful cityscapes. And you know,
Yeah.
they've integrated beautifully into the, like we've restored them all basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in India, it's just like you can go from a restored temple into like the rubbles of another one. You know, so the whole city looks, it's really weird. You've got these amazing old world structures, and then lots of the like domed towers and things like this, and the stupas. But then on top of that, you've got like this rubbly, and I think I spoke to you on the first day about this
Yeah.
rubble. This
Yeah.
just is everywhere. There's this rubble everywhere. It's like they've been bombed. The whole country's been bombed over and
Yeah.
over again. There's this rubble everywhere, rubble. And so the new India has built itself on top of the rubble,
That's
up
interesting.
alongside. And that rubble could be like basically an ancient, you know, tower,
Mm.
or it could be you know, it like the integration is so not black and white like it is in the Western world. Like it's so, you know, like Varanasi blew my fucking mind. Like, have you ever done a show on Varanasi?
What's Varanasi?
All right, Campbell, we have to do a special on Varanasi. In fact, our next show is going to be a special on Varanasi.
Uh,
Varanasi, probably most people know it from the burning body ceremonies in India. You know, where they burn the bodies on the Ganges
on the
and they
Ganges,
set
yeah.
them on fire. And
Yeah.
that's like quite a famous ritual. And you see these images of like, you know, all this smoke and, you know, like the priest with the massive dreadlocks and all these, like that is done at Varanasi. So Varanasi is famous for the body burning ceremonies, and they're big rituals, man, and a fascinating, beautiful movement through cycles of life and death. But we'll get onto that when we talk about that. But like what blew my mind about it is we landed there and we went straight into the hub of it, like, which is epic. Everyone else we were traveling with freaked out. It was too much, too chaotic. Like Tui and I, we were just like, in, man. We were just in, and we were just like, get lost. But our other travelers, they were just like, holy shit, you know, fucking what's going on? Get me out of here. But we turned down to the Ganges, so which are called Ghats. Went down the Ghats to the Ganges. And then I turned this corner on the water, and bang, right in front of my eyes were the most extraordinary seaport, Tartarian seaport I've ever seen. Like,
Yeah, right.
we hardly see images of Tartaria ports, like the ones that are built or have had the water come up to them, has had the ocean meet them. Like, unbelievable. I'm going to show you pictures of that when we do our special. And like, it is Tartaria. It like, you wind down these alleyways, which just millions of alleyways, and you could be in Europe. Like the cobblestones, the stones, the buildings, how they've been built up around these cobblestone pathways everywhere. It's like so European, but then mixed up with this like Indian, you know, culture. And it's just like the strangest mixture of the old realm versus new realm. I fucking loved it. Honestly, if everyone has to go to India once in a lifetime, you've got to get yourself to Varanasi. It's a mind-blowing moment. Like,
Oh,
amazing stuff.
yeah. Wow. So it sounds like they've had a reset and not left, like just kept living there where everywhere else. They've gone in, cleaned up after the reset, and then the people have gone in.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looked like, so we went to another place called Pushkar, and that was like a basically a miniature version of Varanasi, but inland on a lake almost. Like it was like a river lake system, but same vibe. It had the Ghats going down to the water, and it was built like, it looked like India looks like Tartaria everywhere else in the world. Like it's Tartaria everywhere else, but the pictures of the World Trade Fairs where you see like Tartaria go down to the water. You see Tartaria
Yeah.
wrap. So India has all of that. It's all those it's all those areas that like build around going down to the water, and these massive, beautiful Tartarian buildings everywhere, and everything's made of stone and stone pathways, and like amazing. So yeah, it's not the same as what happened in the West. Definitely not. India
Mm.
wasn't destroyed the way it was destroyed in the West, as in the history of all the it's actually been integrated,
Mm. Which is, I
which
guess, the whole Dutch East India Company moving in the 1800s and doing all that kind of stuff. Because they pretty much just went in and like they do everywhere, right? Just like indoctrinated the people, just changed the culture. But obviously, then they just left them in this post-reset sort of country that was still mashed up. Yeah, wow.
with probably a lot of the ancient, you know, ritualistic behavior, because India has
Mm.
so much connection to that those rituals, that pagan, that religions, that it has so much integration into that. It's like it never left. It just like morphed in today's culture. You know, there hasn't been
Yeah.
like a break from it. It's just morphed right through
Mm.
and through it into what it is today.
Yeah, which is interesting because India is looked at as, well, the oldest culture, but it has the oldest writings and stuff. So
Yeah.
basically, yeah, they didn't or couldn't dismantle their history as much as they could everywhere else. So wow.
Yeah, and so many of their gods are, you know, representative of these beasts that we see on these old maps and we see around the sort of Tartarian mythology. So, yeah, I mean, it's really interesting like that to go to India through that lens. I
That's an
mean,
interesting, yeah, right.
I
Be
could
good to look
talk,
at the rest of the world through that kind of see what you could, because the story might be in India, right? Just the names have been changed everywhere else.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I Googled while I was over there, um Tartaria in India, and there's so little content on India. It's really interesting. And you know, and I look at sort of, I was, while I was there, you know, as we was moving around, considering, you know, would the Indian culture, the people of India, would they be inspired or driven to or curious at all about this fake history? Like, would they actually even be inspired to think those questions? It's so different from us. And I'm
Mm.
thinking, I don't know if it's, I don't think so, because everything is so ritualistic and so the whole culture is so morphed around these religions and spiritual practices and traditions,
Mm.
um that really all questions they have about
Yeah,
how this came about has been ingrained into so many
yeah,
stories.
yeah,
It's
man.
just
They've got
one
the
big,
answers that we're looking for. That's their culture is full of them. Yeah.
they're like, they live in a master story. You know what I mean? They live in a mixture of master storytelling narratives. Like every single thing that you could possibly want to answer to, that, or you have a question for, there is some answer there, which is
Mm.
interesting, because if you look at the truth community, the Indian people don't play any real role in that process online. Like, we don't see Indian creators. We don't often cover India. It's not like it's like there's no engagement, you
Mm.
know, which is interesting. And I think this is probably one of the reasons why.
It is interesting because they're a massive population. They're online massively, but they don't seem to be into the truth so much, do they?
So
I mean,
so in
truth
yeah.
seeking, like whatever.
Well, I mean, their whole culture is so thoroughly responding to what is the truth.
Yeah. Mm.
Like, it's so rich in response to what is the truth. Like, I don't even think many Indian people would move or even bother to question the tradition or religion that they've
Mm.
been born into, because it's so many generations holding that
Right. Yeah.
concept, you know.
Geez, that must be nice, right? Not having questions all the time.
But at the same time, they're like, because of all of that, and then because there's so many of them, the people themselves are really nice to each other, because they've
Mm.
grown up with so much diversity on these topics of morality and ethics and gods and traditions, that they generally all come to the consensus that our religions all say, be good, be nice to each other, be kind, don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat. You know, like, it's all the same moral code, the same ethical code has been handed into all of them, basically. They just get a little bit of fuckery like we do about, you know, how you treat men and how you treat women and how those roles play out, and that sort of, you know,
stuff. Yeah.
oppression, suppression of the goddess energy. That's everywhere in India, of course, you know, everywhere in China as well.
Yeah. So how was China? I've heard a bit about India and seen a few pictures and that, but not much of China.
Yeah, China, I died because I realized that my phone didn't have a VPN on it and nothing worked. Like not like it's so
Oh,
firewalled. So WhatsApp won't work, Google won't work, YouTube, Facebook, um, you know, even like downloading like basically nothing. I was completely firewalled on my phone. And then my
wow.
laptop, I did have a VPN, so it was working, but it took ages to find a like a because I think the way I don't know much
Wi-Fi.
about VPNs, how they work, but you have to sort of like find there's got to be a connection outside the country. So it's sort of constantly
Oh,
scanning for nearby countries where they could piggyback on the internet. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I didn't even bother finding out, but it was constantly struggling to find a connection. So even though I had a VPN, it was still shitty internet.
wow. So they really are closed off. Wow, that's bizarre.
And you can't actually, and there's a few frustrating things. So where we went from a culture of total freedom and everything was blissful, the hotels we stayed in were gorgeous. A lot of them were old palaces because in India, when the here's sorry, going back to India, diversion here, something we should also look at. When the East India Trading Company came into India, so India had like kings everywhere. They had kings everywhere. What were they? Maharajas everywhere,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
and they owned land and people, like kind of that Robin Hood serf sort of um thing, right? But it was all really respected and powerful and of the people for the people and very quite loved. All the leaders, all the kings were loved. And then the East Eastern
India,
Trading. Oh my God.
Dutch East India
Yep, that's
Trading
it.
Company.
Came into England, came into India like really quickly, like within a couple of years. They basically like took over, like the each king in India, each Maharaja, like basically gave over their kingdom to the East Trading Company. And then the English would sit alongside the king on the throne. And it just happened systematically across the whole country. Blew my mind. That story blows my mind. And it's definitely worth investigation
Yeah,
because it
that sounds
basically then
nice.
got rid of all of the so basically then the all of the history around who owns the land all went essentially to the government or to the crown or to I don't even know. We have to research this.
The corporation, no
The
doubt. I doubt it
corporation.
burnt down. Yeah.
But so India just gave over all its sovereignty, just systematically, without any fight, almost like welcomed it, just like did it over and over again until there was suddenly like zero sovereign ownership. It is a fascinating, weird fucking thing that happened. So I don't know, and that
Yeah,
was
man.
around the reset years. So
Let's look into that then for sure, man. There's a big story in India, isn't there? There's a massive story.
massive story because the way they just bowed out of their own country, and they love their country so much, and they just bowed out and handed it over, and then the integration, and then so basically, so many of these amazing kingdoms are now like hotels.
Yeah, the old palaces. Yeah, far out.
And so many of these maharajas end up going into the hospitality industry because suddenly all their wealth was stripped from them, but they maintained their land, their few areas of
Yeah,
their domain, which ended up going into, you know, tourism. But it's a trippy story, and definitely we haven't done any investigation into it. So I really think we should do that. Anyway,
for sure, man.
back
Back
to
to China.
China. So all right,
China.
so picture the scene. I've been like I've been like this like hippie, friggin' carefree 3.5 weeks. I've been smoking anywhere I want, everywhere I want. I've been having the best time ever. Everything's been amazing. Loved it and unbelievable. And we end up going to China. And so the airports in India are excellent. They're so helpful and beautiful and easy. It's just like high security, but excellent. Way better than Australia, by the way. And then we get to in China. Now, China operates everything from facial recognition. right? So you basically, and as a Westerner, you have to have your passport with you all the time, because the only access in and out of stations or planes or trains or buses or buying any ticket or checking into any hotel or do anything like that is you got to show that your passport. Then there's really slow process where they have to take this document and fill it all out by hand, and they have to scan into the computer. The whole thing takes about 15 minutes per person, and you have to do it everywhere you go. So you have the surveillance on you is just there's nowhere we went they wouldn't have known where we were. You know what I mean? Like, it's set up so like that. And it's all facial recognition. So they're just tracking your face all over the country. So we even saw people paying with their eyes, with their face, paying for things just with their face.
Oh.
All right. So that's one thing. So suddenly you go from lots of freedom to lots of surveillance. We checked into China and we landed in Hong Kong, caught the train over to China, and then started our trip. And we sort of aimed our way straight into the ancient rural areas. We skipped all the cities. And I have to say, like, the first ancient village we saw was fucking mind-blowing. Like, China is mind-blowing. China, the culture in China, the continent, unbelievable. Amazing, unexplored. It's like they live in an eco bubble that no one really, it's like a privilege to be there because it's hard work to get the visa, and to finally get there and to be in it. It was just quite extraordinary. Like, this country has the most natural landscape. It is the most beautiful landscapes. Like, all of the movies like Avatar and all of these amazing, you know, those big pinnacle, tall, thin mountains, the huge waterfalls, the landscapes are unbelievable. We know nothing of China. We know nothing about China. We know nothing. It is like a secret, forbidden palace, the whole country. You know, everything, all the old culture, all the old towns, the villages, you know, it's all been preserved. And you know, it's all, again, same thing, pavement stone everywhere. It's all paved, thousands of years of paving stones everywhere. Like, you just don't work. Apart from the cities, I didn't even walk on bitumen or concrete, you know. It's all pavers, ancient stonework. You know, these villages are unbelievable. Like, you go into them and, you know, a lot of them be preserved now and still lived in and operated, but like preserved. And they're just like beautiful canals running through these ancient stone, like temples, that people's homes, and, you know, like, and they're all sort of centered on canals and broader waterways. And, you know, you've got to cross over the water to get into the villages. And I'm sure there'd have been star forts there if I'd seen it from a higher version. Like, it honestly, it is something, it's like better than Europe. It is, in as much as it's like it's Europe, but from a totally different cultural version of it, you know. But I could have felt like I was walking down you know, an alleyway in Scotland at the same time. You know, it's just got such a, like, you can definitely see the consistency of the old realm.
Yeah,
100%. And they're all built, both India and China, so much stonework, same stonework.
So not villages full of bark huts like we're shown. No.
No. I mean, there are some, like, you know, like indigenous cultures in both that have their huts. But, you know, my most favorite, I'm not going to go in and over it. Like, there's so much I could talk about, but we'll do it in shows because there's so much to look at. But the one place that was just insane was this place called Fang Wang. All right, let's go have a look. Come on a walk with us down these beautiful polished stones of the old realm into these ancient villages of the old realm, Chinese style. So of course we see so much of the European villages, but how often do we get the privilege of being in the Chinese equivalent? I mean, what an amazing place to live back in the day. And it Fang Wang, and it literally was the Venice of China. It was Venice in China. It was unbelievable. It was all like, houses built right up to the walls of the water. Bridges with houses on going over the water. That whole, like, the Tower of London, the old pictures of the London Bridge, where it was built out. All of that sort of stuff, like, unbelievable. So beautiful.
Why can't we have something like that leading to our front house?
Yes, why not?
Because we don't have any. Mom, we're gonna start living off roads, and you're gonna share roads, and I'm gonna have my own road. And the thing will be there, and then so we're gonna do our own road.
And like this, just one little bit, honestly, it was so that was fortified. That had a big red wall all around it. And like points. So again, you'd be really interested to see it from above.
Yeah.
But like literally hundreds of cobbled alleyways, streets, shop fronts, canals, just totally integrated. And at night, the place is all lit up in China does the most amazing night lights. Australia is bullshit on the night lights. Oh my God. Yeah, anyway, it was just amazing. But I'll put in some photos about now so you can see I'm boring as I'm talking.
Wow. Yeah, right. So it's basically like we think that's just the old world, just all through there. Same
Yeah.
as Europe, same as Australia, same as America. Yeah, it must have been a trip going from India to China, like going, like, say, from full freedom to full bloody 15-minute dystopian cities.
Mate, we're entering the China part of the podcast. I can tell you China was such a contrast, but like the biggest thing, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about today, because it friggin' fascinated me so hardcore, is that India has 1.3 billion people and China has 1.4 billion people.
Wow. Yeah.
And China is a bit bigger than India as a continent, but it has an extra, chunk of people as well.
100
So
million, yeah.
I went to India and we traveled far, man. We went as far as we could go, like all over the place in India. And then we went to China and did the same sort of, or as far as we could go, all rural areas, same sort of energetic. When we were in India, every single second of the day and night, I knew that I was with 1.3 billion people. Like I knew, I could hear it. It never was silent. Everywhere you went, there was people. It was just so friggin' busy. No matter where you were, it was full of people. Like you were always pushing your way through the crowds. And the old Delhi markets, places like this, it's suffocating with people, intimidating amounts of people. China, everywhere we went, every place we went, including the cities we ended up going through, there's no people. There's no fucking people. China is empty. Holy shit. You better put this at the beginning of the podcast. It can be the loop into the show. China is empty. I mean, and like, it's really such an obvious contrast. So, and let me take this a bit further, because you and I have done shows on the ghost cities, right? We've done shows on the Chinese ghost cities.
Yeah, did you see it? Yeah.
The Chinese ghost cities, there's now 3,500 of them.
What?
Like, we're not talking 7 anymore, right?
3,000?
And no, I didn't go through any ghost cities. I went through big populated cities. Well, like, like sort of like towns of like 200,000, that sort of scale in the
So
in
even the
more.
cities though, like, seemed empty, like wasn't like being in Melbourne or something.
So the first city we arrived in was Guangzhou, and that's, I think, China's 6th biggest. It's like one of their biggest cities. And and it's got the same. It's just basically like being in any city. It's really lots of concrete, lots of big. It's fucking boring. I didn't like it. But yeah, for 3 days, Charlie and I went around Guangzhou by ourselves, just going through like the whole city, catching the metro everywhere, getting off everywhere. Like, and yeah, like it's empty. Like there are people, but there are like few people, right? So but it wasn't until so we start traveling and you'd end up going to a train station or a bus station, and the infrastructure of these stations is fucking huge. It is comparative to how Tartaria looks to the humans. Where you go into the old world train stations and the humans are this big compared to the structures.
Yeah.
So this is the same thing, but inverted, because these buildings are new builds. They're all new builds, but to the scale, they are gigantic. They are built for giants. I'm not fucking kidding you. They are built for giants. It's a fucking trip, Campbell. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, these new buildings are built for giants, and the people are as dwarfed in them as the images we have of the old realm with the people dwarfed in them.
And the ghost cities are growing. So are they actually, like, what the hell's a ghost city, right? Is it something they just built or something that just got emptied?
All right, I'll tell you a trippy. So I spoke to one of our excellent Tartarian hunters, Paula, on the phone the other day. And she's given me a whole pile of information to look at, which I haven't done yet, but I will get there. Sorry, Paula. Also having to catch up on 8 weeks of missing carbonate work and overgrown, snake-ridden
I
farm.
mowed a bit, but that was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, so she was telling me a story, and I'm going to paraphrase here. And she said that her friend was in China and was really excited to go on a tour of the ghost cities. And so went on this like ghost city adventure. And the Chinese woman she was with said, do you know who these were built for? Or she asked her, why did they build these? I don't remember which way it went. And the answer from the Chinese woman was, they're for you, and started laughing.
What? So
anyway, back to my story. Just have a think about that. So the infrastructure in China is huge. The new builds, the train stations, the airports, the bus stations. So infrastructure, the metros, all mega and huge, like big mega, like massive cavities, and you go into these places that are mega with mega escalators and mega levels, and like there's hardly any people, like over and over and over and over again. Hardly any people. It wasn't until we were like in one of the big cities where it felt like there was, like more people, but not crowds of people, just more people. And when you'd go up to get your train, because everything runs to the second.
Right, yeah.
And you sort of like, there's gates, like you got to wait, and then they're open, and then you wait, and it's like this whole like process. They've got this whole like moving people through things down to a fine art. You know what I mean? Like to the minute, to the second. It was only in those tiny moments that we'd felt like there were like people around us. But you go into these big spaces, but then you go into like, the center of these cities. And so we went through, and I'm not talking about the big cities with millions in them. I'm talking about like the 500,000 sort of level cities. You'd stay in a hotel, and like so many times we were overlooking the city at night, and you're staring down at these mega suburbs, mega like hundreds of like thousands of chalets all like in front of you, or apartments, all massive, and huge roads. Everything's so big, the roads are so huge, and you're looking at it like at 8 o'clock at night, and there's hardly any lights on.
No lights
in these windows. Like hardly any lights on. And even when we went to a more rundown part of China where it was more low key, definitely not that big, and like even then we'd look out at night and there, hardly any lights on. It's really weird, right?
That's crazy. There's supposed to be, where's the 1.4 billion people?
And there's no cars on the roads.
So it's literally, it's empty, because if there was that many people there, then at least in the cities and the metropolises, you'd see a lot of people. At the very least, it'd be like Melbourne, which is a small city in the world scale, but
Yeah.
you definitely know there's a lot of people there.
Yeah, and also, you know, like when you're going to like, I don't know, just drive somewhere, you would pass traffic, you know, and we hardly pass traffic.
That'd be
And
fantastic.
we'd like go on buses with hardly any people on it. And
That's
we'd
crazy.
and then we'd go to like these big, because they've got made a fine art out of like turning nature into a theme park. Like they've got
Oh,
so many natural amazing things to see that they've like made the theme park. So that like you'll go there and you'll catch a carriage up this huge mountain, like a cable car up these huge
yeah, yeah.
mountains. And then you get there and there'd be like a mega escalator in one of the mountains going up further. And then like there'd be like this glass elevator that you'd come down on the side of like just stuff like this. Like it's just like this whole world of how do you move people around these things really efficiently, which is like unique. It's really unique. But and so at the opening of all these mountains or waterfalls or whatever, there's this huge like ticketing area and, you know, Starbucks or whatever shops. But they were all empty, you know.
What? That's
It's a trip.
it's
Mm.
crazy. Like, so everything's new is big, or
Yep.
at least a lot of the big infrastructure is for
Yep.
giants.
Yep.
Empty cities that are growing, and someone said they're for us, and they can move people around very efficiently and track them all. I mean, let's just hope that the giants aren't coming back and we're not like put up to be their slave race, right?
Do
I
you
mean,
remember? Do you remember ages ago, JC put out a video and she was doing a channeling, and she was it was I'm really gonna paraphrase. Sorry, JC. But basically, you were talking about China and how China had won the game, and that the Forbidden Palace, like the last game of Reset, and the Forbidden Palace was like they could ask for a reward. One thing they could ask from the, you know, the evil parasitic black gooey monster person that was running the show, was they could ask for a reward, and their reward was that the Forbidden Palace in Beijing would be private, that they could keep it private and it be private for them, like so that the parasites couldn't listen in, they couldn't
oh,
enter that.
okay,
Do
I
you
get
remember
you, yeah,
this?
yeah. Kind of
Vaguely.
ringing a bell, yeah.
See, I remember it because obviously I'm fascinated with the Forbidden Palace. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's
I'm
right.
sure
Yeah.
JC will probably
Second
correct
time in
whatever.
China, wasn't it?
Pardon?
That was your second time in China. You've been there when you were
Yeah.
young. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, the point of that conversation is that I remember her saying something like this. And then I kept thinking, wow, so China proved to be the most evil, to do the bidding the most well, you know, and then you look at all everything that's happened in China, and I thought, well, that's really interesting, you know, like maybe it's possible they are being set up as the next reset location, which would make them the economic power. Like they're building out these incredible amounts of ghost cities. Just sitting there dormant. Their actual cities are pretty empty at the moment. The whole city's everything's smart gridded already, or surveilled already. Like, imagine if like, and also a lot of these a lot of these ghost cities. We have smart cities, they have ghost cities. A lot of their ghost cities, are like replicas of Europe.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. Yeah. They got London and Venice and stuff, and yeah, yeah. I mean, that's crazy because we see all these, and I think, this topic's been discussed years ago, but, we see all these photos, right, of these cities that are empty and clean. And then suddenly all these populations turn up in them, and they all get indoctrinated, get their
Yep.
job, and starts rolling. I mean, yeah, man, is that what they're setting up? Like, it's the same old story, do it again right after the reset. Have all
Well,
the
I
cities
mean,
ready.
I like Tui and I are laughing about it because she's like, yeah, and then you're going to come back in 100 years' time and you're going to be looking at China, you're going to be looking at this exact train station right now, and you're going to be like, oh, the giants built it. And she was taking the piss out
Yeah,
of me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I was like, no, actually, because we know how we have built these, like, that's the mystery of the building isn't there. But anyway, But you can
Which
see that how the
is
cycle could
wrong.
continue, right? How the cycle could repeat is what I'm
Yeah.
cracks me up, man. I just have to move
Why
around.
build them so big again, though? That's
Huh?
crazy, right? Why build all these train stations and that so big? Like,
Yeah.
what do they know, right? Is the vapor canopy coming back, right? Ooh, what do they know?
Well, we've got a few, like obviously, you know, like it was just hit. Had just hit the first day of the off season. So I would add that into variable. And also the one child nation policy, which, you know,
Yeah,
only
well,
ended in 2015.
I mean, that would have really culled the population, especially with, what was in that documentary that you saw, which I'm not going to watch, but
Yeah, it's really
you know,
traumatic.
we saw what was going on there. I mean, I'm just thinking that all these cities, I mean, they sound like they're abandoned cities rather than they've just been built, don't they? Like
I
if
know, but they've
because we're
just
all the
been
people. Like,
built. Sorry, I'm being annoying. I'm moving
oh,
around.
oh, you just
I should just stand up because I'm feeling like I want to move. Um, go on. Yes, no, it's
doesn't it
friggin'
sound? That's what it sounds like
yep.
because there's no people there. Like, where are all the people?
Where are the people? So I mean, like it's quite a trip. And you know, so I actually was like, oh my God, I want to research this. Like, is anyone else saying the same thing? So then I
Mm,
Googled, you know, where are the people in China 2023? And there was a few YouTube clips of people in China saying Westerners walking around going, where are the people? Like it's weird. So then I was watching and there's reports on Shanghai and Beijing, which are the biggest cities in China. And again, empty, like all the department stores, all the most sought after market spots, all the
that's
like hardly any people there. And so there are some videos of other foreigners walking around and going, what's going on in China? It's really fucking weird. There's no people. And this is meant to be, we are given the impression that China is so populated that it is
yeah.
the force that's going to overtake the world. Like the
Mm,
Chinese are going to come in and they're
yeah.
such a big giant force.
That's because that's the thing about America, right? America is what I think is almost at 400 million. So that's what, like a quarter. And like I say, there's definitely places you drive and you don't see a lot of people, but there's never a place where you're on a highway and there's not another car. You always know there's people around. It's not like it's crowded, but
Yeah.
and that's probably be comparable at least to the size of China.
Yep.
That's just crazy. That
Yep.
there's that like that doesn't make any sense clearly that they don't have 1.4 billion people if that's the deal, unless they're
Yeah.
all underground, right? Like what?
So I mean, either like it's been all propaganda, and actually the one child nation like policy really did do some, because not only did they kill, I think it was over 100 million fetuses, like they actually aborted or they actually killed the baby upon being born the first day, and then sterilized like millions, hundreds of millions of women. They did all that, but at the same time, you also got executed for dissidents. So then they turned the population on to itself, and with all that fear, so many people were executed, being dobbed in for anything against the party. So, and then of course it came with starvation. So in one chunk of time in China, they sterilized all the women, they aborted all the babies, they killed all the female child because no one wanted a female baby. They got the population used to just discarding a baby and turning your back on it while the birds peck off its eyes, which is hugely traumatic. Then they starved them and then they executed them for dissidents all in one go. So all of that population just gone, like hundreds and hundreds of millions. This is why I believe JC when he said China's won the game, because like they literally completely murdered their population. Like they sacrificed their population. They sacrificed the women and babies.
Man, we might have to get JC on for a chat about this. So, like with
Yeah.
the game, like, is she talking from the perspective of like the Archon, like
Yeah.
and so it like, yeah, okay, so almost like a game of Risk, if you know that, where literally you're a different country, and the aim is to take over the world. So she's saying in that scenario, if it was different Archons fighting each other, then China won.
Yes. China was the
Wow,
most evil. China was
most
the most
people.
evil and did the best bidding of the parasites.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes hand in hand with all the tracking, right? All the smart cities and stuff like
Yeah. Yep. Uh,
1984, isn't it?
and obviously COVID and we didn't go to Wuhan, but I wish we had.
Wuhan, yeah, that's the other thing.
It was
And
on our radar. We could have done it, but we just went in the wrong direction. But
crazy, right? It's like the other countries that went, oh, how did you get rid of all those people so quick? And they're like, aha, come to Wuhan, we'll give you something.
yeah, well, I mean,
God.
so they had, and of course all the, you know, the A word was all linked to China, and you know, all the trafficking of the Falun Gong and their abuse of the Falun Gong, the organ thing, all linked to
Yeah,
China, but and then all the
yeah.
spyware and malware. But in actual reality, China has turned itself against its population for decades and decades, and literally annihilated their chance of being an actual force in the world. Like, because you walk around now and there's a whole missing section of women like in sort of our age group, like 30s,
Hmm.
like late 20s, 30s, early 40s, is sort of like absent. And so, you know, where in Australia all the service roles like McDonald's are all filled in by that age group, teenagers, 20 somethings. Like now in China, all the 50 to 60-year age group are serving at McDonald's, you know,
Wow.
which is weird.
Because they've got
Um,
no populations coming up, which means they've got no population of fighting age men coming up, right? So
well, well, the men, so the children, so in 2015 the policy changed, and they're allowed to have 2 children now. So they only changed it by two, even though they would have acknowledged the experiment caused this massive decline on an ability to improve their population. They've still limited to 2 children.
which means basically keeping the population stagnant. It's not going to grow.
Yeah, which is a very deliberate thing. Like, it's like they've traded their people as part of the game, you
Yeah.
know? And China has such a rich spiritual history as well. Like, it's not like these people weren't super dynamic. They're super intelligent all over again. They're like some of the most intelligent people. They're like super intelligent, super spiritual people, you know, but totally traumatized and terrified. And everywhere you go, they're completely patriotic. Like, they're literally,
Uh,
they're still
crazy, isn't
Chairman
it?
Mao's everywhere, in like offices and taxis and, you know, pubs and whatever. But they simply believe, and we asked a few people quietly because you couldn't make a big conversation out of it, but they truly believed that their government were like amazing and were there to look after them, and that the government has given them all of this. And they have no idea of any mention of a war with Taiwan. They had no idea what I was talking about. They literally have no idea how China is discussed or talked about in the West at all.
Wow. I mean, that's winning the game, isn't it? I guess from the Archon perspective is get the population to worship you as gods, right? And you win. Like, not you can do anything to them. Like,
And they
that.
have, yeah, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that's clearly where all the other countries that we're trying to get to. I think it's failing, but I mean, all this tracking, like depopulation, like turning people in, right, when they don't agree with the narrative, like, oh, that's what we've just gone through, like the start of that. Mm.
It's a really yeah, I mean
So,
so
yeah, man,
you've
we're gonna have to do some looking into this one. That's crazy.
yeah, I mean, you've literally got a population that loves their government, has no social input from the West, is not it has no idea what's going on from our perspective. Um, really nice to foreigners. We saw in China, probably saw in 3 weeks, maybe 10 other Westerners.
Oh,
Like, no one's going to China. So it's a fucking great time to go to China. Like, there's no queues, there's no people, there's like you won't see another foreigner, and they don't speak English. The Chinese people do not speak English. We could not speak to anyone. There was no, and that's another thing, there was no English signage anywhere. You know, normally at these big tourist places, you'd have at least signs, nothing in English. on these big
Wow.
mountain hikes, nothing in English. Most people did not speak English at all.
So
And
it's China for Chinese, clearly.
yeah,
They've built it to keep it closed,
yeah.
or at least not for tourism.
We were going into museums and things like this where you definitely would normally have a translation, but nothing
Yeah,
in English.
nothing in the museums. Wow,
No,
that's crazy.
no. And like they literally, I mean, Charlie has her beautiful like strawberry blonde hair, so she was getting a lot of like, she had a big sort of like fan club of Chinese
Yeah,
people wherever we went. Whereas in India, wherever Tui and I went, and like honestly, 40 times a day, people would ask for our photograph. Just because they love Westerners so much, they've got this whole
yeah.
weird culture where if they see one, they want to take a photograph with you. It is so, and don't have any self-consciousness about it. It's excellent. They just walk right up, take my baby, I want a photo. It's just like, but in China, Charlie was getting all that attention. And predominantly you walk around or you don't see that many women. You just don't. Until
They're in the kitchen where they should be, Kelly.
yeah, I mean, they definitely, and then you go to these like beautiful places like Fang Wang or these ancient villages, which are tourist attractions. And it's all right, relatively quiet, but at nighttime, everything's lit up. Like the most beautiful fucking, if you can imagine the art of making nature look amazing with lights, they've mastered it down hat. It's most amazing, amazing stuff. Like the way they interact on that level with their technology and the cities and nature and these beautiful, like amazing. You feel like you're in a fucking movie set. You feel like you're walking through Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean? Like the Elven village of Lord of the Rings.
Mm.
Like it's all lit up for film,
So they've clearly got all the infrastructure they need. They've got all their electricity sorted. They've got all their, transport and everything sorted, but just no people to use it. So clearly they've still been building it recently, but the question is for who? They've just wiped out their population,
They
and
have. And
at
they're not
two
really
kids, it's
improving
not
it.
growing anymore, is it? It's staying. Like if you only have 2 kids per couple, you're just replacing yourself. So that's going to keep it as very low. It's not going to.
Getting
Well,
blown away. Sorry, I'm here. I just got to move because I'm getting blown. The wind.
I
So
mean,
carry on.
that's
Carry
just.
on.
Oh, I've just got so many questions. I think I need to go and do some research.
I know.
I mean,
You're
it's
welcome.
also. Remember, we used to always get told when you were young, it's like, oh, if we're not careful, we'll all be speaking Chinese. Maybe that's why
Yeah.
nothing's in English, right? Because they just expect we're all going to be speaking and reading Chinese.
Well, yeah, I mean, in China, like I guess if you were put back in there for a reset, English would be an unknown tongue. China would be that language. So I don't know. It's fucking trip. So
It's,
yeah. And I don't know, there was quite a lot of theories about like 500 million people dying due to COVID in China.
500 million. Like that's 500 million. That's a fair swag of people.
If that was the right number, it feels like that would be true. Because like that's what it felt like. That there was like 500 million missing people. That's what it felt like. No, I'm see, I don't know if like obviously that was just like one of the rumors that went through the channel over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I just remember it.
I mean, but this is the main thing is we just don't know. Like you said, nothing comes out of China. We don't know what's happening. They don't know what's happening outside of them. It's
Yeah.
just all this propaganda. And like, a couple of hours ago, I thought there were heaps of people in China.
I know. It's fascinating, man.
So weird.
Look at me. I'm very like movie. I'm hot and cold and hot and cold.
Yeah, man. Like your dream catcher, by the way.
Yeah, this is
It's the dream
beautiful
catcher.
Makami that comes out of India. Wait.
So it's sort of similar to a dream catcher, but it's not. It's obviously not.
Yeah,
Not American Indian. It's Indian Indian.
I wanted to no, it's a mandala.
That's a
Oh yeah,
mandala.
sorry, it's in yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna I was like wanting to bring them in and for our audience, but like I didn't have a chance to negotiate. They're so beautiful.
Okay.
But anyway, another time. So
Yeah.
yeah, and we went to 2 trade fairs, one in China and one in India, and all of them were saying the same things that like no one's returned to the trading. So none of their American or Canadian like businesses have returned.
Customers, yeah.
And everything's really, really getting messed up economically.
Wow.
The trade
really?
fairs were really empty, which
Especially
has
China,
never happened.
like that's, God, I don't know, the massive percentage, right, of our consumables all come from China.
And they're like everyone was basically talking about a Great Depression. Like not a recession, a Great Depression.
Depression.
2025, 24, 25, the onset of the Great Depression, and to get yourself as possibly as far as you can out of debt, because the debt's going to be a real problem. And I was like, well, that's exciting, not bought a mortgage. That's just a side note from the conversations we're having on with those two communities. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone knows there's some kind of economic collapse coming. I think it's actually already happened myself, but they're just propping it up. But yeah, I mean, more reason to leave the system, right, and not rely on it, because I mean, it's only within the system that this kind of stuff is going to crash. You know, if you're not relying on the system, you got your own, you know, food and
we all fucking rely on it.
We do it to some point. I know we do.
Like we all do. That, which takes us back to the conversation of like how fucking expensive is Australia. So let's just go back to there for a second. Oh my God. So India, basically, I can't even tell you. Like a cup of coffee is 50 cents. A packet of like tobacco, a pouch of American spirit tobacco was like $7.
Wow, that's cheaper than buying it in America.
Yes. Like books, like all the best PD books or whatever you're reading is like $2, $3.
What?
So like 5-star accommodation in beautiful palace hotels, maybe like you're looking at like $100 a night. But then comparatively, if that was on say Airbnb or a hotel chat, you'd be looking for the same level of that would probably be coming at $1,500.
Wow.
You know, like they're palaces.
Top sort of notch. Yeah, right.
Like an average meal to eat out, probably I'm talking, and like to properly eat, like to order food and get different courses, and you know, you could do all that in like $8. Like it's just so unbelievably cheap. Like we felt bad in our budget if we spent like $30, you know, on a day. We'd be like, wow, we blew our budget today. You know, shame on us. You fucking losers.
Jeez.
$30, you know, like, so like basically what I'm saying is that you could live on, say, what I pay in my mortgage a fortnight and our food and our bills. You could live off that fortnightly payment in India. It would probably give you maybe the same amount of money, maybe 3 months of, you know, really nice place to live.
What, 1 month or 1 week?
2 weeks. So I get paid fortnightly. So my 2 weeks of costs would probably give me 3 months of like 4-star lifestyle in India. But you could stretch it so much further. My point is to like rent in India. Yeah. To rent in India for a year and eat and like live like kings and queens, you are looking at nothing. Like nothing comparatively to the cost of Australia.
Can you rent like nice houses or apartments or anything like that there?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they got nice. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Especially to anyone who's out there who's, you know, working on the interwebs, which many of us. I mean, that sounds really cheap. I mean, this is the thing, right? The less you spend, the more you. I mean, it's because same with America. Like I was in Texas, and you can buy like a block of land, but it's a small one. It's like the 300-400 square meter ones we get in the new estates here, right? In Australia, you're looking what, 200 plus easy for that block of land, right? Probably 300 plus if it's in a half decent area. 10 grand in Texas. You can literally buy, which Australian is like 13 grand. You can buy it for like for 200 grand, a nice big 2-story house on a
Yeah.
big block. In Australia,
Yeah.
you could probably get a shitty block out in the desert for that, and that's literally it. You couldn't get a house that was livable. You
Yeah,
couldn't.
it would be around no people, no
Yeah,
community, no
exactly. Yeah,
infrastructure.
it'd be like a 4-horse town kind of thing. So just that. I mean, it's like
I
it's
know.
almost
What are we
worth living
doing?
in one of
Yeah.
these places like India for 2
Yep.
years. You'd save enough if you wanted to
You
live
would.
in Australia. You'd save your money so you could actually
Yep.
afford to buy something.
100%. Like, and
Thinking,
in the money that you're saving, you could like do so much more traveling. Like it's just, but once you're on rupees, then converting back to any other economy, it would
you
be a
lose.
very big problem.
This is the thing. If you're still earning in Australian or US dollars, then
Yeah, you're
who
cool.
cares, man? Like, and if you want to invest, I was thinking of, if you want to buy land, like you can go and spend 20 grand in America. They've still got good rental incomes and stuff. You could probably do the same in India.
No, buying
Airbnb
land's
something.
impossible. You can't
They
buy
can't buy
land in India. There's a whole
people.
process with the government that you can't. It's just not worth it.
That's why we have such problems in Australia, is because they allow other countries to come in and buy up all the land.
Mhm.
They go and they buy all the best land, all the best resources, and then they just push the prices up, right? That's it. Yeah, man, we
And the Indian people love their government. They love their current prime minister as well. Like they love him, and he's
yeah.
everywhere. Like they're very patriotic as well. Yeah, I mean, so the cost of living in India is ridiculous, and there is so many extraordinary places, and there's certainly Western communities like Goa that are like beautiful. We didn't get to go, but we're definitely going.
So there's Western communities there. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, Goa, it's like where all the old hippies went in the 60s, and they sort of stayed, and like, so there's definitely places like you could rent beautiful houses, like on the coast or inland in the mountains, and just
Because
like
down
have a
south they got like lots of beaches and stuff, don't they? It's nice and warm and
100. You could rent wherever you wanted, and then just spend the whole time traveling around the country, because you're not under the pressure of how much everything costs here. Like the need to make this income at a certain level is completely cut to, maybe 10% of that. Like it's so phenomenal. Then
it's got the big problem though.
it's definitely, oh my God, they eat mutton, a little bit of mutton, but it's also hardcore. It's so spicy and hot. Like I would have to have my own kitchen to be in India successfully. Yeah. Well,
Right,
Tui had the best time of her life.
Yeah, I bet she did. Yeah.
She's a big foodie and just was like fucking Mexican, crazy Mexican, spicy as hotter.
Spicy food.
Yeah. So I just sat there and gave her the evil eyes every meal. Yeah. But China's cost of living is also extraordinarily less than Australia. Like again, it's not as cheap as India, but it's definitely nowhere near Australia. Like we got back to Melbourne and went down to the Vic markets, and we had $50, and that wasn't enough to get like 3 coffees and like 3 egg and bacon rolls. You know what I mean? Like $50. It's like such a shocking. In China, you would have probably done all of that on maybe, if you're eating locally, like $10, $15. And then in India, maybe 5, And I think, what are we paying for? Why are we choosing to act like slaves here? Like, what's the benefit? It's still sunny.
Well, it's a good question, because China, if it's got this small population, like where's all their revenue coming from? Like we're taxed out of existence here, but what, they can't give us infrastructure and a good standard of living. But then somewhere where they're not getting apparently all this tax revenue, they've got all this new infrastructure. They got lights everywhere. Everything looks cool. I mean, it just shows how much of a scam it is, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe our rulers are going to they're trying to win this level of the game, man. It's like, come on, let's get the crap out of them. Let us win. But I mean, it's food for thought, because what are we doing? Apart from the fact that we were born here, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's definitely, it's definitely 1,000% more stimulating more rich with input, more dynamic, more energizing, more beautiful, more everything, and so much cheaper to live. Yeah, it's a like I think we are definitely considering what that could look like in the future because like
It just makes sense, man. I mean, this is the thing. Like, why would you give up having a nice block of land that you own outright, that you're not going to get harassed by the government? You
yeah,
can be on the beach or in the
yeah,
mountains, and then your cost of living is nothing. So you can work
yeah,
as you wish, kind of thing,
yeah,
right? Like, you don't
yeah,
have to
yeah,
stress. I mean, why wouldn't you?
yeah,
Like, it's because Australia, for anyone who's not in Australia, Australia is just, that's ridiculous. Like, literally, if you're, under 30, you're not getting a house, man. You're not, like, unless you inherit millions of dollars. Like, if you want to be in a good suburb in Australia, a 3x1 will cost you $1 million plus.
yeah,
Seriously, it's ridiculous.
yeah, 100%.
And what's it all for? Because all we end up doing is working more, getting stressed out more. We don't have as much time to exercise, to cook, so we eat worse. We get sick. Why? So that we can buddy give the government half of our wages. I mean, that's not a good plan.
No, no. And it's so easy to like just be in it until you get out of it and
When
see
you
it
get
from
out,
the
you don't see
outside.
it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so I mean, me too. Like my traveling radar's really high. You can see I haven't come down.
As it's
I'm
the
moving
attack.
around,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
smoking, I'm just like, I want to like I've just been so used to every day moving, 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 like seeing something new, moving again, seeing a new hotel, a new thing.
Mm.
And then we get back to our area and it's just like no one here.
No,
It's
there's
like,
literally, it's like being back in China.
yeah, but like it's just in the
The
bush.
cool, yeah, landscape.
And
But I
it's
mean,
a
the thing is, the farm is pretty, like, we're not even close to a town. It's really sort of pretty isolated. So yeah, it's food for thought, man. I mean, shit, maybe we should start an ashram in India or something. I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, you wouldn't need to start one. It's like
they're everywhere. You go and adopt one, yeah.
but yeah, I mean, there's a million questions about sort of how China fits into the future of like
Yeah,
our topics here on what we've been looking at this whole time.
I definitely think we need to do a dive on that, and India as well, but definitely China. What's going on? Like, if that's the truth, then I mean, what's going on? There's
What's
clearly a big
going
plan.
on?
What's going on?
I know what's going on. There's
Jeez,
like too many weird synchronicities with our thoughts on the
yeah,
resets and how
exactly. Yeah.
China's sort of um currently from the inside looking, it's really very interesting. And
Yeah, yeah.
I wish I had actually like sort of put my thoughts into order as we were going through the traveling because I would have then captured a lot of video of how empty everything was. But it wasn't until sort of the end after 3 weeks, I was just like, wow, it's not just where we are. Like we literally, I've lost him. We
Like,
literally,
oh,
I have um I have Charlie here live on
hello,
the
Charlie.
podcast. Can I help you? She's staring me out.
Oh,
Since we're all family here, what is it you would like?
what's the problem, Charlie? Can we help?
3:12.
Yep.
What time are we leaving?
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait. Yeah, what time are we
All right. You can be more patient than
No, no,
that.
Of course, no, no. I've also got to have a shower. So like,
We'll go do it now. Go. Yeah, right now. Okay. She wanted to know what time we were leaving. We're going to go and see our dear friend Cassie and Carter
Ah, nice.
this
Say hello for me.
afternoon. Yes, we're excited. That's probably the thing that we've missed the most is just the beautiful friends we've made in the area. But I don't know. I just look around Australia, man. I'm thinking, oh, it's pretty fucking flat here. It's pretty deadbeat. I don't know. I don't
Well, that's the
know.
other thing about America, like that, just the landscapes, man. And in Australia, it's all the same.
Mm.
Like, literally, all the forests look the same. We get rainforest, which is a bit different, but in America, like, they have forests of like deciduous
Ah,
trees and stuff, man. I'm just like,
I
whoa, what
love the
is
forest in
that?
America.
Like they're just so different, right? And you drive from
Yeah.
state to state, and it looks different. In Australia, you can drive for days, man. And
Did you
not,
see this? Did you see any snow? Did you go in? What's the season over there? Is it summer
it
or
was
winter?
going into winter, but I was in the south. I, I'll only venture north if it's their summer, man. I'm not going into one of these crazy places where people live and it snows on the ground.
Oh
If
my
there's
God,
snow,
it's
it should be on
amazing.
the top of a mountain, and you should have a
No.
snowboard.
Wait. My experience in America, it was around Colorado and Denver and the
I,
Rockies, and oh my God, it was just amazing in the
I would
snow.
like to go to, yeah,
Amazing.
Colorado.
It was so cool. I mean,
But,
I
but
can,
that's mountainous. At least you can snowboard there.
yeah, you can do everything there. It's like the alpine like skiing areas of
Mm,
Aspen's there, the famous
yeah,
skiing resorts. Yep.
that'd be
Loved
cool.
it.
Yeah, it's just these places where it snows where you live, and you just got to dig your front door out in your car so you can get to work. That's silly.
I love it. I would totally live in the snow.
Oh
I
my
could fucking love it.
Oh my God, that's I did have
Yeah.
an ice bath, so had two ice baths, so
How was that?
cold. I
Yes.
lasted 13 seconds and then 20 seconds, like really cold. So,
Yeah.
but it's good for you, so I'm going to try and keep it up. So,
You're gonna
yeah.
try to keep it up. How you gonna try? Oh, was it here? You did it here?
No, I did the Jethro's, but I'm thinking
Oh,
we
okay.
got the dam. I can always wander up and jump in the dam and
Yeah, that dam's fucking freezing.
scream like a girl and try and get out.
Well, all right. So I reckon we'll wrap it up there. That was just like a bit of a deep dive on China, just
Yeah,
really off the
man.
cuff.
Few revelations as well. So yeah, we'll have to do some follow-ups definitely for that, man. That was interesting.
Oh yeah. I think you and I think like we'll go down the Chinese content. Of course, as soon as we do this, I probably won't be able to get it in again for a while. Because it is super monitored. Like it really is. Like all those stories are quite accurate. Um, and I lost my phone. Also lost my phone in China, but that was so
Oh
another thing.
no.
That's right.
Geez, they're tracking you. They hook up to a quantum computer. Like, what's she saying?
But yeah, what an amazing two countries, and like let's get some content out on both of those because like really fascinating.
Yeah.
The Tartarian goggles have not put their lens on either of those continents very much. I
Mm.
think just lack of people traveling there and just lack of people there. So I think that's probably why. But I've had some, India, amazing connection with the giants. Like there's so much context there on giants. So yeah, we get deep dive into that on coming up shows, mate. And you're home in a couple of days.
Couple of days. Yep. I'll be back. And
All
you'll be
right.
going again.
And then I go for a couple of days and then I'll be back. And then we will sit down finally and
Yes.
talk
Quite
about
local,
the
so
the
you'll get there.
nitty
Awesome.
gritties. All
All
right.
right.
Well, nice to see you, buddy.
So, yeah, yeah. And thanks for watching. Leave us comments. Have you been to China? Have you been to India? Let us know. And yeah, we'll be back with some more updates.
All right. And of course, this has inspired in me a whole new range of t-shirts. I have to tell you. So we've got a new range coming out for 2024.
Man.
For no other reason apart from the fact that I just love taking my ideas and putting them into I just love designing things, I just think it's so much fun to see how the artwork is. It's a big part of my love for this Tartarian realm. So I'm definitely got some like new
Awesome.
ideas in my head.
Man, keep your eyes peeled for those.
Yeah, let's see if we can break the story about the next reset happening in China.
Let's
See if
do
we can
it.
get some more evidence out there. In fact, it's a call out. I know we've got some amazing researchers in our community, like fucking excellent researchers. So we're very interested to note to see what your Tartarian lenses find online in relationship to China and the next reset and to India. So, all right, guys. Well, we love you. It's nice to be back.
It is. But it sounds like we both want to go again soon. So how long we're here for.
All right. Well, I'll see you in a few days, buddy. And
You
we'll be
will.
back online next week.
Cool. All
All
right.
right. Love
Cheers.
you, man. See
See
you
ya.
guys. Bye.
Bye.